It's exciting to be back. It's exciting to be up here again and speaking to you. There's so much to tell you and want to share with you a little bit about my journey these days. And I want to thank the Creator and all that is for being with us and for supporting us through our journey, and to all my guides and connectors and my journeyers on this journey. So thank you all for being here. And thank you to Mother Earth for grounding us so well and protecting us. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my path, my journey, a little bit about channeling. So I'm going to give you a little bit about everything. And as always, as Circle says, if something that I say doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Just take what does and move on, okay? Because sometimes when stuff comes in, it can come in really intense. Sometimes it can come a little preachy. It depends on who's coming through and what's going on. And sometimes it does what it does. So just FYI. So I have a question to ask you guys. Why did the moon make a haircut appointment? Because it was time for an eclipse. Hopefully my talk will be better than that. So just to get going here. So my journey's been a little bit about being that vessel, that channel for the divine coming through, for attunements, for initiations, for moving souls along as need be, and for helping those in the ascension process. What's been interesting, as always, is my path gets questioned. I question my path on a regular basis because things happen, like recent unemployment and overstressed and overwhelmed and all kinds of other things that just kind of bubble to the surface to feel like they're obstacles on my path, but they're indirect blessings when you step back and you look at them. It's hard sometimes to see the big picture when you're in the thick of it. And many of my friends know, as I come crying on their shoulders on a regular basis for, how to move forward, what to do, how to be. And so it's interesting on how it works. And I guess it boils down to lessons of trust. How much are we really trusting? How much am I trusting all that's going on? So with all this, my downtime right now, my indirect blessing here, I've been able to reconnect more fully with spirit, really start to listen, have some more fun, be with friends, kind of get back, let that stress go a little bit. So again, that's an indirect blessing. And during this, more connecting with the spirit, I keep hearing, and I know Mike Wana and others have reminded me over the years that it's time to write that book. So it's like, wow, look at this. There's this abundance now of time. So I can be writing that book. And I've started redoing that and getting that going. As some of us know here, books are challenging and they take a lot of time and energy. So it's neat because it's like, oh, here we go. The other thing that I like to do on my journey, and I see the bigger picture. I see the bigger picture within myself, within others, within the world. And I look for the synchronicities as always. So one day I picked a card from one of my multi-card decks, and it was the death card. And of course, our first thought when we pick a death card is like, uh-oh, who's dying? Is it me? Is it them? What's going on here? Well, then I started to realize a little more than that. It was the death of my belief of scarcity. And it was like, oh, that's why I got the death card. It wasn't necessarily because there was a physical death, but it was a different kind of death. And so that opened me up to seeing the positives here of the improvement in abundance and self-growth and all this time that was going to be available for me. For my clients, I like to help them see the bigger picture and with their, help them with their healing, their vibration, their expansion, and also kind of work within them and to help them see differently. And a beautiful synchronicity that has happened with one of my clients is this young woman. She's in her 30s. She's a yoga teacher. She's a massage therapist. She has 3 young children and a husband. And so over COVID, obviously everybody was on lockdown and she had, There was a lot going on in her household for sure with all these kids and stuff. And now as she's moving out of, the COVID phase, she hasn't been working. She's been dealing with the kids, and she's like, oh, she came because she like doesn't have any more patience for the kids. She feels unbalanced, undone, just things aren't in place the way they need to be. So we started talking, and I'm doing her intake, and I'm noticing her street. And it was like, oh, interesting. I've treated 3 people on that street. Interesting. Okay. So I said, well, which house do you live in? So she described where the house was. And it was like, wow, I was in that house. One of my patients from many years ago as a physical therapist, I was treating her privately in her house. And I treated this woman up until her transition time. And her name is Sue. And when I talked to Sue, before she transitioned, I was like, can you give me a symbol for when you pass on, so I will know I'm connecting with you and that you've moved on? And she said, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And so she said daisies. So, okay, great. So here it was winter time when she passed. And as she, after she passed, I started looking on the usual Facebook and TV and whatever. And what am I seeing in the dead of winter? Nothing but daisies everywhere. And it was so like, oh, how perfect is this? So I'm relating this story to the client because she's in the same house and she knows of Sue. She knows of, that Sue had passed and she had saged her house and done all the, usual things. So she's a young awakened woman. And she said, oh, and she starts to chuckle and she says, you know what? We just got a new puppy. And we named that puppy Daisy. Oh, you can't ask for better. It was like so perfect. So along during her session, as I'm, doing my healing work and vibrational work on her, I can feel Sue come to me. And that tingly feeling, and I'm hearing her voice. And she was, letting me tell the client that she was so appreciative of having this beautiful family in her home and having all this laughter and love and excitement. And it just made her feel so good. And it made the client feel really well. And Sue also told the client that if she ever wanted to communicate with her, she could. And that was like, how wonderful is that? Again, with the client, as she's laying there, I give out symbols to people, and it's symbols for healing, symbols for growth, symbols to integrate within their system. And her symbol came up as a lamb. I was like, okay, she got a lamb, this is like really cool, and I'll try to see the bigger picture here. Well, what does the lamb symbolize? Peace and patience and gentleness. And she is now like the shepherdess, herding her little lammies together. And so brought that through, and she, she was appreciating that. And then she also then started to chuckle again. And she said, well, for the past 2 weeks or more, I've been reading nothing to my kids except things about sheep and lambs. So it was like, okay, then how perfect is that for you? So it's neat because, things just pull together. Obviously, she got a lot more, but those are just some little snippets of fun things that come out of sessions and how to move people forward and see things, and taught her a few things while she was there. It was great. So it's fun for me to see those aha moments for each client and each person as they come through and go, wow, this makes so much sense to me. And I'm feeling like, oh, I'm moving forward. And how am I moving forward? The other things that happen for me is being that wonderful empath. And, it's got its blessings and it's got its other side as well. And one of the things that happens is I can feel what's going on around the world. And sometimes it's for me, it comes in as this intense anxiety. And so I keep asking myself, is this me or is it beyond me? Is it me who's like starting to go crazy and whatever? Because I'll pace, I'll do things, I'll like, why can't I focus? I'm just going. And then it takes, a little bit for me to kind of stop and center and figure out what's going on here. And most recently, things for the, let's see, when we had that Syrian and Turkey earthquake, that really horrible earthquake, I was with anxiety for almost 3 days. And it was before during, and then after. And the morning of that earthquake time, as I'm waking up, I'm like, I can't get back in my body. What is going on? So obviously I was out there helping. My soul was out there that, doing whatever I needed to be doing and helping. And it took me that whole rest of the morning to fully be back in. And once I found out, and this is why I like to look at the news just to get an idea what's going on, it was like, oh, no wonder why. This makes a whole lot of sense now. And once it was nice to identify it, then it was even better to be able to send that love and send the healing to wherever it needed to go. And then for a while after, it was like there was this horrible and intense grief in my heart. And so like intently for, oh my gosh, the sadness and whatever. And along the way, I'm hearing spirits say, move those souls along. So part of my intention then was to help them move. So it was like a mass ascension. When you think about it, there's over 50,000 people who died. So all of those souls needed to get moved and helped along. And we don't want anybody stuck. We want that movement to keep flowing and going. So I call it my stop, drop, and pray. So when this happens, I stop what I'm doing. I kind of, drop into channeling, and I send out those prayers and the love wherever it needs to go. And then all of a sudden, like that, I'm better, I'm calm, everything is well. So it's, you do what you're asked, and it keeps working. Spirit asks, I do. In the past couple of years, I've had some interesting downloading, and from different ascension principles. So like as in Reiki, you'll have different symbols. Well, these ascension things were coming through, and I was able to impart them into whoever needed them at the time and whatever. So that's been really fun, and different things and spinning things and however it may be. The other thing that's happened too for me, and as an empath and doing even my physical therapy, if someone comes in with a knee problem and it's specific and there's something different, give me a matter of time and all of a sudden I have a knee problem that's almost the same thing. And I feel it, I work with it, I figure out what's going on, and then I give them the exercises and my thing goes away and it's no big deal. So that's how I work with figuring it out at times. And lately, I was meditating with this Scottish crystal skull. And what was going on was there was nothing but this like ticker tape of information and letters and numbers and things. And it was going so fast, my brain was hurting. It was like really hard to deal with because it was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? I'm getting a headache. This isn't good. And then, it stopped and fine. I went to Serpent Mound in Ohio, very high energy sacred spot, and going to sleep that day, that night. Again, here comes this ticker tape of information, and it's trying to download into my brain, and it's like I'm on overload, and I couldn't sleep. The energy was so intense. So what I've started to realize, and I've got a couple of clients with some bipolar and anxiety and depression, and one woman in particular, she's really good at her third eye, but is bipolar. So I found it fascinating. Her medicines keep her vision more narrow on purpose because she's so wide open that she would just like, it's on circuitry overload. So it's been fascinating because I've been able to figure out how to make a change for her and using different chakras and how to shift it. So she said, even with the meds, she could start to see more, but it was in more control, and it wasn't with the brain hurting. It wasn't with the headaches and the stuff that comes along with it. So that it's been, a neat journey, and hopefully I can help more people with doing that kind of work. So today, I'm going to talk also about channeling, and channeling again comes through. I get nudged. I get that anxiety a little bit. One day at the end of February, I was anxious as I'm going to the food store. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I'm doing my thing, and I'm driving, and I'm feeling more and more of this intensity. I'm like, fine, I'll pull over. And I'm like, okay, something's coming through. Good thing I keep a pad and pen in my car, pull it out. And My shoulders are getting broad, the tinglies, I'm getting taller, like, okay, who's coming in? And then I hear, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Ding, 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 JFK, okay, hi, how are you? And there was this intensity, this movement, this progression. And what started to happen was that there were these questions that I was getting bombarded with. Can we really love one another? Can we have the peace that passes all understanding? Can we value life and not kill? Can we be true to ourselves and others? Where is the love? Can we make changes with inflation, help assimilate all the migrants, and help so many who have lost their homes in these natural disasters? Where is the love? So it was, it wasn't just words, it was this intensity, this power, and this urge that I come and talk today about some of this and remind us of where we're going and what's doing. And when I think about JFK, I think about the 60s. That was a time of change. We're kind of putting love into action in a different kind of way. And that was then, and now we are here. So we've got to up our ante quite a bit and to move forward. And we're all, have worked so well on our own self-expansion and awareness and our own ascension process. And that's been great. But remind ourselves, we need to now expand that to everyone. So it's not just an individual process, it's a group process, a multi-ascension process, to keep that in mind. And a lot of what comes through is about this, how are we cooperating with one another? How can we make that better? So on the Nature Channel, there was a beautiful segment about oceans and the fish in the oceans. And I didn't realize how much nature cooperates with one another. And here there's this starfish lying on the ground, and this adorable little tropical fish of yellow and like blue stripes, like Nemo and Dory and those cute little fishies. And all of a sudden there's this predator hanging up above. Well, this cute little fish dives into the belly of the starfish. And all you see peeking out of the starfish is this eye looking around. It was the cutest thing. And then all of a sudden the predator fish leaves, and out pops this one. And it was like, how cool is that? Like, it didn't eat it. Usually you go in the belly of the starfish, you'd be eaten. Well, it doesn't work like that. And everybody's happy. It was like, wow, what a neat, a neat thing to see. So they had another one. Here comes this big moray eel. Like, oh, those are, you want to stay away from those. Well, it shows up, it opens its mouth really wide. Here comes these adorable little shrimp. And now they're cleaning the teeth of the moray eel in the mouth. And then they leave. I'm like, the guy went to his dental appointment. How cool is that? And it works. It works. It was just like, wow, they all like work together. It wasn't one or the other. And it was just like, yeah, we need to do a little more of that. So as we cooperate with each other more, it leads us to expanding ourselves, expanding our love. And more questions that came up along the way are the usual: who am I? Why am I here? How may I serve? Well, it's time now to consider shifting into who are we as a collective? Why are we here? And how may we serve as a whole group? The Medical Mission Sisters ask, what does the world need? And what is the work that needs doing? So it's to, again, move us a little forward to make those changes and love in action. How can we reach out and touch other people? That love in action. It kind of reminds me of these seeds. When you put seeds in the ground, right now, especially the spring, the perfect time, they're getting ready to pop through. You've got the light, well, the flowers wanting to grow to the light. and they have to come up through the obstacles of the ground level between the hard soil, the sand, the rock, the clay, and moist soil, rough soil, dry soil. Well, they're popping up and they want to be that flower, right? Well, and here we are in our sacred geometry, our seed of life, you know, just starting out in the creation process, the 7 seeds we are moving into, you know, this is where we've begun. And we want to move from the seed of life into our full expanded self of the flower of life. And it would be really nice to have more of us being the full flower that we came here to be. Way to expand. So it's no surprise that JFK showed up when he showed up, because he's encouraging us to get more courage and strength, cooperation, push forward to co-create a brighter future together. Now's the time. We've got, you know, new political stuff coming up, so we've got to be figuring out what it is we need to do and how that's going to look. We have our examples just having circle here for our expansion. We have people like Edie Weinstein and Pat Gallagher who help with spread the love and do stuff. So it's time to move into bigger and better ways to spread our love, however that can be. A day that has, so something else had come to mind in the midst of all of this as you know, again, channelings, you get some words, you get some feelings, but there's this intensity to move in directions and come up with more info that shows up in different ways. And one of that is to like, okay, so what would be something simple that we could do that moves us in that direction? And the thought of a oneness day came up. You know how we have holiday for this, holiday for that. This is this group, that's that group. Everybody's got a something around the year. What about just a plain old oneness day? You know, so we're all one. And reach out and touch and kind and gentle and do and share the love. Simple. You know, we all do it in our different ways, but if it was a collective day, maybe that would people to focus more and understand more. So it is a pivotal time right now. So it's time to move forward, to expand, to show our strength, our courage, and move into your full spiritual brilliance. So ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you as this whole group now do for your country and beyond and others. So let's put that love into action and get moving. So thank you guys. Thank you.